vision is empowered growth, enhancing postgraduate professional development with LifeComp and LinkedIn Learning. Away you go.
Okay, good afternoon. So hopefully you can see my screen. So my name is Andy Holgate. I am the library digital skills developer. Still trying to work out what that actually means, but essentially it's a role that was created 2 years ago with two facets to it within the library. One was to be able to develop digital resources. So if you were in the Manchester Met session this morning where they were talking about having a digital developer or a learning technologist working with them with Articulate and things like that, that's the one part of my role, and hence why I'm using Articulate to present to you with and not PowerPoint. And the second part of my role was taking our subscription to LinkedIn Learning and developing it across the university. So to give you a little bit of background on that, when I came into post in May of 2023, we had LinkedIn Learning since October of 2022. We had 600 600 interactions with LinkedIn Learning across the university in that time period. Now, granted, we hadn't done any promotion and not done much with it. It was just on our library A to Z because it sits within the library, and we hadn't really done much else other than maybe some FLs in teaching sessions saying, we've got LinkedIn Learning, have a look at it. So I came on board and put in a program to grow this in the first year and then really try and embed it. And this is where this comes from. So just to give you an idea, when I checked last month on where we were, so in May of 2025, we've now had 230,000 content interactions since I came into position and started promoting this, basically knocking on lots of people's doors and having conversations. So one of those conversations was with two academics in our management school, Radke Newton and Dr. Jennifer Scrivener. Now, I had been doing the liaison job within the management school for the library for the previous 15 years before I took this new job. So I'd known them very well. Actually, I knew both of them as MBA students and helped them with their referencing and their dissertation and everything else that's the bread and butter of an academic librarian. So I had good relationships with them. And my boss, Andrew Barker, had challenged me. So he's the director at Lancaster. He had said, this is great, we're getting interactions, but what actual value is this? What a click's a click. And I tend to agree with him. So we need something, we need a case study where we can then go out to academics and say, look, this is having an impact, this is making a difference, and this is what I'm going to share with you today. So I talked to Radke and I talked to Jenny, and they had a module called NC585 Professional Development at Lancaster, which kind of sat within the employability section of our graduate attributes. Every university has graduate attributes, but this was looking at professional excellence, giving students the options to develop their confidence and reflection, experience, attitude, skills, etc. And they were saying, look, we can't really get student engagement with this. They're struggling. They don't really engage. It's a problem. So we sat down and I said, look, we've got LinkedIn Learning. Are you willing to take a chance and say, talk to me, let's see if we can build something that will get them to engage with it, and it'll give them new skills. We'll map it against this LifeComp framework that they were using, which is an EU framework, which I'll go into in a few more minutes. And they said yes. So we sat down and we did a lot of planning about what we could build. We talked to the head of department about changing the module slightly, and they were quite happy with that. So we completely redeveloped the module and made it based around LinkedIn Learning content. Okay, we thought we'll throw everything at this and see where we go. And thankfully, as this resource case study will show you, it was a bit of a success. So NC585, as I said, is a postgraduate employability module. So what we did, we asked students on the module to choose up to 5 hours of LinkedIn Learning courses relevant to their skill set. And at the beginning of the module, we gave them a survey and asked them what they thought their skill set was based around the LifeComp strategy framework. We then did that again at the middle of the course, and finally at the end of the course, kind of an exit interview to see and hopefully measure impacts. And this is something that we found to be quite significant. So they chose their 5 hours. Within that, they then created reflective posters. They had to do a poster presentation to peers and staff, and they also had a 1,500-word essay to write around their usage of LinkedIn Learning, etc. So the first thing that we found once we got to the end of this course and they did their module feedback, and this is a highlight that we've been able to go out and sell to other academics. Module feedback improved from a 3 to a 4.2 out of 5, which is a 40% increase, which is quite huge. So this was good because it showed that LinkedIn Learning could be used successfully within a classroom to help with professional development and employability skills, but also, have a good effect on the student and how they were feeling and how they were learning. So this guide here, as I said, is going to provide insights into the whole rationale of the approach, giving insights from literature, examples of what we used. It'll give you the surveys, it will give examples of work, etc. Now, the reason I created this is we are publishing an academic article next month. And being totally honest, I find academic articles sometimes quite dry. So we reached out to the publisher and said, can we create something electronic to go alongside it to make it easier to understand everything, which has got all the references in and everything else, and this is just kind of the real world stuff. And they said, yeah, great. So this is what this is. This is a quote from the head of careers at Lancaster. I won't go into that too much, but basically to say she liked it and they're now using it within careers. So the LifeComp framework, if you're not aware of what it is, was a European Commission initiative, and it's basically in 3 sections: personal, social, and learning to learn. And it gives competencies for lifelong learning and personal and professional development. So there are lots of different strands in this that will give you things on emotional intelligence, etc. You've got an overview there, but if we scroll down to this section, if I just click on this is what you'll find in the personal section. So it's essentially self-regulation, flexibility, and well-being. And a bit like a framework of any sort, it will give you different sections and say, this is what you're going to find in this section there. You've got the social section, which is empathy, communication, and collaboration. And learning to learn, which is kind of, as librarians will all recognize, this growth mindset, especially critical thinking and managing learning. So all of those skills that we are involved with in teaching. We then gave them the LifeComp framework log. And if you're interested in that as part of this, you can download that and see exactly what the students filled in beforehand. And as they were going, they were reflecting on what they were learning. There was also a careers element to this that was added in to make it meet the module guidelines, so to speak. So we use a Career Edge Plus model, which was developed by Peter Sewell and Lorraine Dacre-Poole. And again, this you can read more about on there if you want to. I won't go into it too much, but there's a diagram there saying about the different areas that it does, and it does closely map with LifeComp. So it then developed further into Careers Edge in 2007 when it introduced the concept of cultural intelligence. So digital literacy, critical thinking, ethical awareness around different cultures. And again, you've got access to that. And that's what it looks like at Lancaster. And then where I kind of came in, we started mapping content from LinkedIn Learning across to LifeComp. Now I'm talking away like everybody knows what LinkedIn Learning is. I apologize for that. So LinkedIn Learning, if you're unaware, is a platform over 20,000 courses and professional skills development things from LinkedIn. It's not the social media platform, it's a learning platform, but they do connect if you wish them to. And within LinkedIn Learning, you can create pathways, and we created one to map against the skills that we wanted to teach from live comp. So the personal area, the social area, and the learning to learn area. And if I click on this, this will take you to the actual thing within LinkedIn Learning. So this is the live comp. Sorry, my live competencies. This is the learning pathway. So there are 19 hours in this and 33 items. Remember, they have to choose 5 from across all the sections. So they choose the ones which they think would be most beneficial to them. So in the personal area, it's things about your strengths, it's your value, cover letter tips, investing in yourself, all these types of things, self-confidence, emotional intelligence, workplace, leadership ethics, etc., networking, email, and that. In the learning to learn area, you've got growth mindsets, as I said, flexible thinking, creativity, overcoming overthinking, and I went past the section because I was going too fast. There we go. Social area, yeah. Leadership ethics, writing, email, professional networking do's and don'ts, etc. So that's kind of what it was. They go in, they choose that, they follow the course, they earn a certificate, they then provide evidence with the certificates at the end of the course to show which 5 that they've done. And that then allows us to see that they've done that. Of course, we can also track this through LinkedIn Learning and through our Moodle site for this that we got. So they're invited to engage with that. As I said, lots of content in there to do that. So some of the key takeaways of what students thought when we surveyed them about this. So only 38% of them said they browsed the platform and completed content that was not on the learning pathway. So, I mean, that's still quite good. 38% of them actually had a look around, found something else and included that in their results back to us. Interestingly, 90% stated they would continue to use the platform after the module had ended. Now, I must admit, when I first saw that, I was kind of thinking, yeah, they're kind of saying that because they think we want them to say that, and I was a little bit skeptical about that, but I'll come back to that. And 82% of students said they would recommend LinkedIn Learning content to their peers, so that was really positive. And the satisfaction score of using this out of 5, 92% of them rated it at 4 or above, and it had an overall score of 4.48. So again, they were satisfied in what it was giving them. We weren't getting any of that, oh, it's, you know, stealth learning by YouTube, it's just videos, this, that, and the other. They were really engaging with it and they found it to be useful. So getting back to that 90% that they said there, so 90% stated that they'd still use it after the module ended. So this analysis was undertaken in February 2025 to track the users, and we found that 90% had actually used the platform since the module finished in March 2024. So 90% of them said they'd use it and 90% of them did. So that was amazing. And 81% had used it for 30 minutes or more. One of them had used it for a remarkable 33 hours, which they can't have had a social life, if I'm honest, but fair play to them. Now, what we wanted to do as part of this as well is to create something that could be mirrored by somebody at another institution. So if you're not at Lancaster, but you have access to Lancaster University, you can click on the different areas here, and I've given you the links through to each course that we've used. So you can mirror this if you wish to. As I said, if you are at a university that has this, you may need to be upgraded to be a curator to be able to build a learning path, but the option is there. I've given you the tools to go away and do that if you wish to. So again, students reported different things that they'd found throughout this. 56% of them cited communication as their biggest developmental gain, followed by growth mindset and self-regulation. So, fairly decent scores. So this is the data from the start of the module with the questions that we asked them. You've got links to finding the questions there and seeing what is and seeing the responses. In the middle of the module, we changed the questions slightly. Some were the same. And you can see the results. And then at the end of the module, we gave them the exit interview, as I call it, and that's where you can see the score and satisfaction and all the other stuff. So all of that's there, all the data's there for you to look at, analyze if you wish to, if you're interested. So pulling all this together, this is a snapshot of the courses that students did. So we had 150 students. 66 of them filled in the last one. 66 of them gave us consent, I should say, to review their final reflective essays on what they said they did. Have further data on the others, but that cannot be included in a study. So for the ethics of it, that's where we stop with that. So in the personal area, you can see that discovering strengths and leading yourself were the top ones that students took part in. And in this area, which is social area, communicating with emotional intelligence was the top one. And the learning to learn area, much closer, but not as many taking part in that, which was quite interesting, is cultivating a growth mindset. Excuse me. So when it came to supporting them with LinkedIn Learning, two other things that we did as part of this. We got a panel of entrepreneurs and leaders in residence, which we have at Lancaster, to do a Q&A session with them and talking about the different strands of life comp and how that mapped onto their experiences. And again, we asked them to talk about LinkedIn Learning, if they would use it, what they would find useful, and how they would apply what the students were doing. So it gave them kind of, yes, this is the theoretical that you've been doing, but actually we're out there in business. We own a company. This is what we would do with what you've been learning. This is what we think of emotional intelligence, or this is what we think of organization. And these are the skills that we find valuable, and you can learn them this way. So you can find all of that in that PowerPoint that's there. And then we did the poster session where they came along, and this was a wonderful morning. I'm luckily just out of picture on that photograph on purpose. But they came along and they presented their posters, and they all talked about, and they were all glowing about their experience. Not one of them was kind of down about it. They were so happy, and it was just a great morning. It was one of the best mornings in my 25 years at the university, because you could see the actual joy that these students had with what they were talking about and what they actually learned, and the passion they were talking with just made everything worthwhile. And if I could bottle that morning and share that with everybody else, that would be amazing. We've provided examples of the student work, anonymized, so she's not really called Andrea, and you can follow that through and you can see. So this is the Life Comp framework. You can click on the little information thing and you can see the LinkedIn Learning courses that were taken that related to the empathy strand or the growth mindset strand. You can see, and you'll notice them when you do all this. So we've obviously picked two very, very good essays. They've done more than 5. Okay, they engage with much more than 5. So they've done more than what was actually needed, and it will show you all the different courses there that they've gone through and looked at. Then we pulled out some reflective quotes from them as to what they learned and what they did in different sections, and providing that an example. And again, there's one there for a different student. There's academic references, because academic references, people like them, and this is attached to a paper. And then there is contact details for myself and Jenny and Radke. Now, what I should say in the couple of minutes I've probably got left, this was for a module which is now about to disappear. We at Lancaster, like many other places, are going through a curriculum slimming. It's called the Curriculum Transformation Project, and a lot of these employability modules will disappear. So what really pushed me to make this a success was, and again, Radka could see this as well, was that we wanted a case study that we could then take out to other departments and go, look, if you employ this in what you're doing, we've got careers on board, we've got the IT services on board. This will then actually, drive engagement, and it's a way of creating resources and giving resources to students that they actually want to engage with. So as part of the curriculum transformation project, there will be general employability modules embedded in every subject at Lancaster. And this has now been picked up as part of our framework for that, the education framework at Lancaster. This resource and this example is embedded in there as a good practice for all departments to look at as to how they can engage with LinkedIn Learning and drive engagement for professional development and employability. So that's really exciting, and that's going to be one of the big challenges in the next 2 years for me, is actually scaling this up across everywhere in the university, and there's only one of me. So if I had hair, it would be grey. Luckily, I don't have any hair; it's already fallen out. So I'm not going to have that to deal with. But it's going to be a challenge going forward, particularly with all of the other stuff that's going on. What I should also say is that I am very grateful for my wonderful colleagues in our LTE team at Lancaster who have promoted this and promoted LinkedIn Learning and getting me into conversations with people to take this forward. And finally, we shared this with LinkedIn Learning and they loved it, and they're taking it as an example worldwide of how academics and librarians can work together to promote LinkedIn Learning and to get good results from students. I think that essentially covers what I wanted to tell you in the time that I've got. I'm hoping I'm on time. Thank you.
You are very much on time. Thanks very much, Andy. That was really interesting. Okay, so have we got any questions? You should soon be able to unmute yourself if you'd like to put your hand up and ask verbally, or feel free to put them into the chat. We have got one already from Tom saying it looks amazing. As a librarian who's just taken over the business school and have LinkedIn Learning, where and when will